Okay, the next part of STEEP that we're going to look at now is the technological trends. Okay, so what we're looking at there is our changes in technology over time and what's coming up and what's happening. We need to start to get a bit of an understanding of this because, new technologies have started to have a major impact on businesses like never before. Okay, what that means really is that, technology has really changed the way we did things. Back in the day, if I wanted to send someone mail, I had to go write a letter, put a stamp on it, stick it in a letterbox, and I had to send it. Now we have things called email, and things move pretty quickly. And we've certainly incorporated a whole lot of technology since then. The rate of technological development is its highest rate in human history. Okay, things are continually changing and evolving at a massive rate that hasn't happened in the past. And new communication technologies allow marketers to reach even more people and greater numbers of people, but also to be very selective about an audience. Used to be back in the day, if I wanted to put a message out to a lot of people, I had to put it out to just about everybody and then hope that the right market identified it. Whereas these days, I can target a great number of people worldwide and be very specific about the people that I want to target with my message. So businesses that can foresee new technological developments can get the edge on the competitors very quickly. If you can start to understand what's happening and what's going forward, you can get a little bit ahead of your competitors there. So when we start to talk about technological trends, we're looking at, information and communication. Okay, so information technology and communications platforms. We're looking also at about the digital usage rate. Okay, so we're looking at the digital usage rate, how often people are interfacing and using technology. We're looking at the age of interactivity. Okay, so we're also starting to think about, the internet itself. Okay, and what's coming out there. Looking at different changes about what platforms and what services are available. And things like SMS and MMS certainly had quite a bit of an impact when they came out and started to change how we market a lot of things. We can also, off the back of that, moving from the internet, we start to look at social media, okay, which we're all too familiar with, fortunately or unfortunately. Blogs are a thing, okay. We look at competing technology. So competing tech. We might also think about manufacturing of those things. Sorry, excuse handwriting there, getting to the bottom of the board. And also the consumer themselves, okay? And what their buying mechanisms and technology happen to be. So moving forward from that one, we start to think about, information communications technology. It's people's lives are moving more and more into a digital realm, okay? It used to be once upon a time, some people had computers and now everybody does. Just about everyone has a computer in their pocket, in their mobile phone, okay? So that's just become a feature of the way we're doing things now. Traditional channels for communication, like write it in the newspaper, it used to be, put it on the radio, put it in the newspaper, okay? Yes, those things still exist. No, we're not saying they don't exist and they're not useful, they certainly are, but the reality is that, they're old platforms that still have their uses, but they're not the way we always used to do it. When I was first entering the job market, there was no internet. You looked for jobs by getting a newspaper, no kidding, and you looked at the back of a newspaper and they had a job section. Now we have Seek.com, we have My Career, we've got a million online services, and really there's not much in the back of the newspapers anymore. It was expensive, you bought it today, and it was fish wrappers tomorrow. Okay, it was sitting at the bottom of a bird cage, it was doing anything other than advertising a job. So that was the problem, it was expensive and it was a hard way to do things. Now they get online, much easier, much quicker to get applications. Okay, so there's also the digital usage rate becomes a bit of a thing there as well. The digital usage rate is about how much people are using those technologies. When people first bought computers, they might check their computer once every couple of days. Once the internet came along, we'd check email. Hey, you got mail, bing, pretty old school stuff. And we'd look at it occasionally. These days, we're on there, we're looking at your mobile phone. Some people don't ever seem to get off their mobile phone looking at information coming through. So we're looking there about, well, how often are they on these services and what are they doing with them? Okay, and we're applying that usage rate across all the internet services and access. Okay, the usage rates start to increase in certain geographic areas and demographics. Once we start to understand that, we can start to target those segments. Okay, particularly for teenagers and all that these days, we know where they are, we know what they're doing. That's a demographic we can target very heavily. We know they're on Facebook, we know where they're hanging out, they're using Tumblr blogs, etc., and we can be all over that. Okay, so the other thing is we start to look at the age of their interactivity. In the past, they produced marketing material for people to use, but that started to change as the company starts to move into social media and engage with the product in a more active way. So, we are in the age of interactivity. It's not a case of they just promote it anymore. They're trying to engage, okay? It used to just be, I have a product, I sell the product, I put it out there, and that was about as much interactivity as you have now. Companies have their own social media profile. Everything from my local coffee shop has a Facebook profile. My local coffee shop is trying to engage with people in social media, for what it's worth. Now, the internet itself, obviously, it's revolutionized global commerce. It used to be, back in the day, if I wanted to buy something, my only option was to go to a large shopping mall, and if they didn't have it at that shopping mall, I'd have to drive halfway across Sydney to another shopping mall and hope they had it. And if they didn't have it, I'd have to drive the rest of the way across Sydney. So really, I was stuck geographically. There wasn't the opportunity to just jump online and check things. Same. I could check prices. So now, all the customers are all able to network and interact with me as a company anywhere I want to be, okay, or anywhere they are. They have now an amazing choice. Back in the day, as I said, the choice was limited to what they had nearby. My ability to negotiate a price was also very limited because it was take it or leave it. The local shop sold it, they sold it at the price they wanted. My ability to compare was very, it was very hard. I have to get out the yellow pages and look up a competitor company and make a phone call and hope that, it was a terrible way to do things. Now I can be sitting there looking at a price, pull out my mobile phone and start doing a price comparison on the spot. Okay, so as a consumer, I've never had it so good in that regard. Things like SMS and MMS started to, mobile phone technology started to change things as well. An SMS from a business is still fairly personal. Okay, an SMS or an MMS is still a fairly personal service they can use. I see that a lot with political organisations that want to stir grassroots operations and really get in with their membership. If I just send you an email, it feels a little impersonal, but I can personalise an SMS and send it to you, and it really feels like I'm directly talking to you. So that's still a fairly intimate way to touch people, even though you've got a sort of a large mass ability to do that. Social media are another thing there as well. They're starting to get involved in, producing games on social media, create networks on there for like Facebook, Twitter, etc. They allow the customer and the business to interact. Okay, so that's another change there. Everyone seems to have a Facebook page now. Every business seems to have a Facebook page, and they're getting into like posts. They're creating free games, so you keep coming back to their Facebook site and interacting. In fact, some of those games are really, we all have that friend who gets on the social media games from those companies, and they keep adding you to get a farm for their place or something like that. That's what we're talking about there. That's a way that those companies can start to get friends of friends to purchase their product as well. Okay, so that's what they want to do. You'll be next. Add me as a friend on Farmville or something. Okay. Other information you might start to gather from that. They start to gather a lot of your behaviours when you're using their social media. Okay, so they start to understand, well, what are you doing? Who do you talk to? What are your links and relationships? And that allows them to target their marketing dollar just that little bit more as well. Things like blogs and tweets, they're out there to put out, high-value messaging tools. People follow bloggers they respect. If people find a blog they like and they're entertained by, they'll keep coming back and having a look at what that blogger has to say. And the bloggers can often have a very large effect on their marketplace. Okay, they become a bit of a thought leader on a topic or a hobby or some sort of activity, and people keep going back there. It becomes the food babe, or it becomes even Oprah to some extent. Okay, everyone wants to get involved and hear what these thought leaders have to say because that shapes a lot of behaviour. On the other hand, the tweet, now a tweet's a lower value message because it's short, okay, but it can attract a large audience because it's very easy to digest. The blog is very good, it's a high value message, but it tends to be quite a lot of information. And sometimes people don't want to sit down and read 10 minutes worth of info. So a tweet, a short, sharp, snappy piece of info, can be smaller, but it's more consumable by a large audience. Kim Kardashian, millions of followers, and charges, if you want her, she can tweet your product like, oh, gee, I just used Bob's coffee. Yep, Bob, that'll cost you $10,000 because she's got quite a large group of people that are all going to find out about Bob's coffee and the fact she just drank a cup. But other people might be attracted to it. Some of those larger bloggers and tweeters really do shape whole companies, and it can be the make or break with one tweet. It's quite a large impact. You look at competing technology. So, competing technologies can severely segment customers. Okay, so HD DVD versus Blu-ray. When that came out, it split the market down the middle and fragmented it. There was a bit of a technology war there about how people were going to go about putting their technology out there. And once the tech war had been through, there was a winner and there was a loser. Blu-ray won, HD DVD lost, but at the same time it created a large distraction for those businesses as the platforms competed to find out who was going to be there. PC versus Mac, those sort of things there. It can keep some consumers out of the market. If consumers are worried that battle's still going, yes, it affects the people in there, but a lot of people might also be a little bit reticent to go in because they think, well, am I going to end up on the wrong side of that debate? Am I going to buy the HD DVD the day before HD DVD disappears? Okay, so that becomes a bit of an issue for us there. Your manufacturing maturity capacity, as we go through our product life cycle, our technology does allow us to come up with better understanding of what's happening and how we're going to manufacture products better. Okay, so those technological advances come down to also manufacturing advances. We start to understand better ways of doing what we're doing, and that starts to allow us to also cut down costs, better software platforms, better measuring, better distribution methods, better point of sale, and the teller machines, even at a bank, the ATM, I put my card in, I'd beep, 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 money comes out. It used to be a person had to do that, and that was a fairly expensive way to do it and fairly labor intensive. Okay, so what's also changed is for the consumers, they've got new ways to spend their money. Technology has brought in a lot more platforms and advances. Used to just be bank card and credit card, Master, Visa, Dyna, Amex, all that sort of gear if I wanted to spend money. A little bit harder, or send people a check for those that remember the checkbook. These days we have everything from, we've got PayPal. We move through a whole lot of different online platforms that we can, get online and make our payments that way. Net banking, etc. So that's made life a little bit easier. But also thinking about, Visa producing things like PayWave. So now when I walk into the shop, I can walk past the supermarket and grab all my goods and just swipe my card through. I don't have to hang around putting in PIN numbers or anything. It's become a lot easier to spend my money. Okay, we can even use our mobile phone to buy goods and services. So they're really trying to make the ability to do a transaction a lot easier than it was in the past. And that's certainly going to, it helps the consumers to spend the money, but it's also something for you to think about. How am I going to adapt this technology to use it in my business to make it as easy as possible for my customers to be able to buy the goods and services from us? How do I make the process as seamless, quick, and painless as possible so that I can very quickly satisfy their needs, receive payment for that, and then move on? Okay, so really when we're looking at the T, we're looking at that technological advance. We're looking at how people get online, how they're communicating. What's the digital usage rate? So how often are they looking at it? We're starting to think about how the internet's affected that. Our social media presence becomes a big issue, and also the social media presence of our competitors and what they're doing out there. We're thinking about key bloggers out there who might be engaged in that area. We're thinking about competing technology and different platforms that are out there and what that might mean to us. Once again, if we find ourselves on the back end of a redundant technology as it goes out and something else comes forward, that can have a massive impact on us. We're thinking about our manufacturing systems and how we can incorporate technology to make those a bit better and more up to date. And we're thinking about the consumer themselves and how they're going to interact with all this and how we can then carry out transactions with them. But there's quite a lot in technology. It's not just the software, so something to think about there and think about what it means for your business. All right, look forward to speaking to the next one with you.